Yes.
Okay, as soon as you're ready to go.
Hello, I'm Shira.
My name is Ev.
And my name is Gilly. We are here today to
Hold
discuss
up. Don't start. Don't start without me. Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel Halpern. Let me just catch my breath quick. I'm so sorry I'm late. I barely made it here. I was just in a car accident on the way. Police had no clue who was at fault. I barely made it here. The car accident, God, sorry, let me just catch my breath. The other person just so happened to be in a driverless car. They hit me, and the police took forever. I got here as fast as I could, though.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about the accident, but you came to the right place to discuss it.
Can you please tell us a little more about the specifics of what happened?
Okay, well, it was a hot and hazy
No,
afternoon.
no. We mean what actually happened. We don't care about the weather. What caused the accident?
From what I can understand, this woman, I believe her name was Rachel Rubenstein, was taking her new driverless car out to the grocery store. Since the car requires no input from the driver, she was busy listening to her favorite podcast while in transit. Before I knew it, she had T-boned my car, and here I am now. Supposedly, she hit my car in order to avoid hitting and possibly killing a jaywalker who appeared out of nowhere.
Wait, so what did the police say?
Well, they took down notes and didn't really know who was at fault. Since the jaywalker wasn't anywhere to be found, he couldn't be held accountable. They said it would be up to our insurance companies to decide. But being the devout Jews that Rachel and myself are, we decided that we were going to take it before the Beit Din. Do you guys have any idea who would be at fault? According to halacha, I don't even know what type of damage it would be. Besides chewer. I mean, it's definitely not chewer. Clearly the car is not eating any crops or doing any damage with its teeth.
Well, Daniel, the pit is also ruled out because the damage was not done by falling into a marked or unmarked hole. Bava Kama 1:1 says, the pit which does not move and causes damage. Therefore, we know it cannot be the pit because this was a car accident and there was definitely movement that took place.
Then this leaves only the fire and the ox as possible types of damages. I think it may be categorized as ox. According to Bava Kama 1:1, the ox is a damage that moves around, and that clears up the issue of movement.
Well, you clear up that issue, but you bring up a few more. For this to be qualified as ox, it would need to be moving, alive, and not forewarned. You are correct that it is moving, but according to Bava Kama 1:1, the ox is considered alive. And according to Bava Kama 9b to 10a, the ox is not forewarned. It says, the fire is more strict than the ox, since the fire is considered forewarned from the beginning. Based on all of that, I think it would be better categorized as fire.
That's a great point. In the accident, the car is defined as moving, forewarned, and not living.
Exactly, so it would be fire. To summarize it all again, according to Bava Kama 1:1, the fire is more strict than the pit, since its nature is to move around and cause damage. Next, Bava Kama 9b to 10a also states the fire is forewarned. Rachel Rubenstein knew she was purchasing a vehicle with dangerous potential when she bought the car, regardless of whether or not it was driverless or regular. Finally, the car is not alive. The car's artificial intelligence is just that, artificial. It does not have free will, nor does it have a neshama, a soul.
So if we're categorizing it as fire, the next question is, who is liable in this whole case?
Miss Rubenstein, because Shemot 22:5 states that he who started the fire must make restitution. She's the one who got into the car, turned it on, and told it where to go. Therefore, she's the one who started the fire, and she's the one who owns it, making her liable for any damage it causes.
What about her insurance company? Car insurance exists to cover damages caused to or by the car, if her plan covers this.
Yeah, I guess we can just assume that whenever Miss Rubenstein is liable, the liability transfers to insurance company.
What about Eli Levine? He owns the company that designed the software and built the car.
He may have designed the software, but once Miss Rubenstein bought the car, it became her responsibility.
Thus, the insurance company is liable to pay you damages.
Great. Okay, there's just one more question I have. Should the Beit Din instruct Mr. Levine to make any changes to the programming used in the self-driving cars because of ethical or halacha concerns?
Great question. The answer is no. As taught by Pikuach Nefesh and Chidushei Haramban, there is nothing that stands in the way of saving a life except for idolatry, sexual immorality, and murder. Therefore, according to both halachic sources and ethical values, the programming of the car did the correct thing by crashing into your car rather than hitting the jaywalker and ending his or her life.
So you're telling me that Rachel T-boning my car was the best case scenario?
Well, in this exact case, yes, since the only other possible occurrence would have been Rachel hitting and killing the jaywalker. The programming did the correct thing by hitting your car instead, and therefore saving the other person's life.
Wow, that actually makes a lot of sense, guys. I guess no changes needed to be made to the programming. Thank you.
In the end, we concluded that the damage is categorized as fire. Bava, 1-1 says the fire is more strict than the pit since its nature is to move around and cause damage. Next, Bava, 9b to 10a also states that fire is forewarned. Rachel Rubenstein knew she was purchasing a vehicle with dangerous potential when she bought the car, regardless of whether it was driverless or regular. Finally, the car is not alive. The car's artificial intelligence is just that, artificial. It doesn't have free will, nor does it have a neshama. Therefore, it is categorized as fire.
We also concluded that Rachel Rubenstein is liable and that her insurance company is responsible to pay for the damages. Shemot 22:5 states that he who started the fire must make restitution. She is the one who got into the car, turned it on, and told it where to go. Therefore, she is the one who started the fire, and she is the one who owns it, making her liable for any damage it causes.
Lastly, we concluded that the programming is fine how it is and executed the best possible situation to leave the least amount of damages. As taught by Pekua Nefesh, there is nothing that stands in the way of saving a life except for idolatry, sexual immorality, and murder. Therefore, the Beit Din should not instruct Mr. Levine to make any changes to the programming used in the self-driving car. Thank you.
Okay, judges, you now have 8 minutes to ask questions.
I'm still flustered from Mr. Shalom coming in.
Those car accidents, you never know with them.
Had a different name.
It was the same thing. He was just making me step in for Mr. Shalom.
Oh, got it. Could you please explain what you mean by the terminology "not forewarned"?
Do you want to take it or me? Just in the source packet, it was saying how fire is forewarned from the very beginning, as in if he was awake or asleep, if the fire is from him, if he caused the fire, whether it be intentional or not intentional, all damages are you're still liable for them.
So you're saying forewarned means fully liable?
Yeah, and you knew that there was inherent danger in it. Like buying a car, you know that there's inherent danger in driving a car, whether it be driverless or a regular car. It's always dangerous to step behind the wheel of a vehicle.
Okay. You also used something else. You said the fire is more strict than the pit. What did you mean by more strict?
That was just quoting from the verses itself, Bava Kama 1:1. The terminology is just the pit is more strict than the ox is more strict than the pit.
Right, so my question
It
is,
just means that different penalties apply when one of them causes damage, because they're different types of damage.
so if something's more strict than the other, it means greater liability or
Greater
less?
liability in some situations, but then again, it's kind of circular. Like the ox can be more strict than the pit, but the pit is more strict than the fire, and then the fire is more strict than the ox. It's just a different situation with different caveats.
Okay. I hear that you're completely fine with Oliva's programming of the car. Had Mr. Shalom not been able to be here because the impact of the self-driving car was such that it killed him, would you still say that Oliva was not at all liable?
Well, in that,
Yes.
do you want to take it?
Yes, because with the pedestrian, the case states that there would definitely have been a fatality. The pedestrian could not have survived impact, whereas with Mr. Shalom, there's a chance that he could have survived even if he had been killed, because he had the protection of car with airbags and a barrier between himself and Ms. Rubenstein's car. So crashing into his car is still safer than crashing into a completely unprotected pedestrian.
There's always a chance in a car accident that the person will survive, whereas if a car is going and it hits a person at, it says in the case, at a reasonably high speed, there's very, very slim chance that the person will survive. Whereas the airbags can go off, and there's the possibility of survival in, I would say, most car crashes if airbags go off, if you're wearing your seatbelt. But if you're just hitting a random pedestrian, I would say the chances go down. So the chances being higher of survival would make us believe that it still is taking the best course of action, even if in the case Mr. Shalom did not survive the crash, because there was still the possibility of survival.
Have you considered that perhaps there was a way that the programming could be tweaked to minimize damage while avoiding, while trying to save a life?
The programming is already designed to do that, right?
Well, I
Pretty
think
much.
he's more so asking what would we add to it. So I would say that maybe like a manual override for braking, but then if we were to bring that in, you can say that possibly if you use that brake, you can cause someone to rear end you, you can bring in more factors, and that also kind of takes away the whole idea of the driverless car and your inability to sit in the back and just listen to your podcast on the warm, hazy day in Ov. So it kind of takes away from the purpose of the driverless car. Even though it may be better for the car, it adds more factors in that might make the car act differently than it should and possibly create more accidents and more problems.
Thank you.
Did Ms. Rubenstein do anything wrong?
Nothing wrong per se, but she did buy the car, and anyone that is driving a car knows that they can do damage, and they are kind of not fire in this case, but they're playing with fire with just how the possibility of creating damages and really hurting someone whenever it's, as they always say in driver's ed, you're driving a weapon, so you always got to be aware of that.
Is
Does
that
it-
what they say, drivers?
They do say that,
Yeah.
verbatim.
So, does it bother you that you're saying that she or her insurance company are fully responsible even though she didn't do anything wrong?
No, it's not really relevant because it's not a punishment. It's to pay restitution to Mr. Shalom because he missed work, he has hospital bills, he needs the money to make up for the damage he received. So if it was to punish Ms. Rubenstein for something she didn't do, then there would be a problem, but it's not.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.